All right, welcome officially. This is for people on the recording as well to our final Ask Me Anything Live of 2022. It's been quite a year, and I've been able to connect with so many of you during these calls throughout this year. And Kay, I'm trying to think, have we connected before? We have. On these calls or somewhere else? On these calls. Oh, I really like your hair. Was it red before or pink?
Magenta.
Magenta. Love it. That's hard to achieve. And Nolan, how are you?
I'm good. Can you hear me?
I can.
I'm I'm not a big fan of Zoom. It's always been just horrifying to use, and it's not just me, it's our company, and I'm trying to figure out how to change my name and how to turn the camera on. I mean, there's so many things that it's just not user friendly.
I get it. Do you have a preference for another? That's how I find
Yeah,
the funny thing.
Google Meet is so easy to use.
Oh.
And it's so, I mean, I have people that have said, "Oh, I'll use anything," and I'll give them Google Meet, and they're big Zoom fans, and they're like, "I'm using Google Meet from here on out."
Oh,
You don't even have to
God.
put a password in some, if you do it right.
Hmm.
It's easy for participants, and
Oh,
I mean,
nice.
I can't even figure out how to change my name on here so I can
I
put my
can
name.
I can rename you. Would you like me to rename you?
Yeah, just put like Nolan Foodie Village.
Nolan Foodie Village. Done. Um, excuse me. Yeah, it just takes a few clicking around and getting. Are you on your phone or are you on
Oh,
computer?
I'm on a computer. I'm on a computer.
I have your experience when I'm on my phone with Zoom. Like I've had to host a couple calls on my phone and I'm always like, where are things? Where do I go for this? So I can relate to that a little bit. I'm sorry that Zoom is a challenge for you. I
And
find it to
now
be
I can't get you back on the screen. Like you
oh,
were on the screen before, and now all I see is you and hi Kay and Kay on the screen on the side, but not on the big. All I see on the big screen is a black screen that says Nolan Foodie.
oh, so you've got it on speaker view. So when you talk, you probably go front and center. You can change the view, which if you go to, where is it? More. Where do you go? Change view. Let me click around for you. Anyways, you can change the view. You might have to go into your Zoom settings.
Zoom. So where? See, I don't even see that. I see apps, reactions, participants, chat.
Upper right-hand corner of the screen
Oh, there
says
you
view.
go.
And if you click on that, you can select speaker or gallery.
Gallery.
There it is. Yep. So I always have mine on gallery so I can see, everybody who's there.
Yeah.
Especially
Thanks.
yeah. Good job. See, look at the things that we're still learning about Zoom. It's great. Thank you, Kay.
Still
Well,
don't like it, but thanks, Kay.
I
Now, how do I put my?
appreciate your persistence, Nolan. There
Hi.
you go. Ooh, look at that fun background. See, you do know a thing or two about
No,
how to
I don't
use.
know how the background got there. It's backwards.
Oh, hilarious.
It's all right. It's all right.
Love
At least
it.
it's semi-working. I
There
didn't
you
shave.
go.
I didn't shave. I got a big
I
meaty.
didn't shave either, so we're
Okay.
same boat. Same
Well,
boat. I know.
you look better than I do.
Um, well, how can I help you guys today? What final questions or issues or business planning stuff are you guys looking at here at the end of the year, start of the new year?
Ladies first, okay? You go for it.
Okay. So I have my own company and I have been talking with another woman who owns her own company, and we want to do something together under a different name. Now she's in Canada and I'm in the US. And I was looking down the path of doing a joint venture. Is that kind of the right direction to go?
I would say so, yes. And
Okay.
so my perspective on this, because there's a couple different ways you can do joint venturing. Yay, here's Julie. Welcome, Julie. So good to have you in here. So, Kate, in regards to your question, and Julie, she just asked a question about collaborating with another business owner in Canada. Kate, where are you based? You're here in the States?
Southern California.
Southern California. Okay. So, yeah, joint venture would be the right label, the right approach. There's a couple different ways you can do a joint venture, right? So, I focus mostly with my clients and those that I serve on what are called contractual joint ventures.
Mhm.
And that is usually where you have two businesses, each already set up, coming together and doing a project, an experiment, a new course. They're
Yep.
experimenting with something, but they're not at the level of like, let's do an entity-based joint venture where they're actually creating a whole new legal entity and setting it up like a partnership and all of that, right?
Yep.
So with a contractual joint venture, you still are going to have things like, tax obligations and stuff that go along with that. So you'll definitely want to check with your CPA, all of that, because it can trigger certain things under the tax code. But basically what you're going to do is you're going to come together. If you do it the right way, and I have some information around how you can do this the right way and be as, as prepared and as supportive as possible of both the joint venture and the relationship. Then, any income or earnings that you have, you would share on some agreed upon basis, and those would each flow into your separate businesses.
Awesome. That's exactly how we've been talking about it and what we wanted to do, and talking about setting up commission structures if we get individual clients out of our joint venture. And we've been going down that path. So I was looking around your website at the joint venture stuff you had there. So I thought I was looking at the right direction.
Yeah, you are. And what I'll show you, just so that you know where it's at, because it lives in a couple different places, and if you don't mind, I'll just screen share with you for a second. Because you can get things on my site, both in bundles and in, and so I'm going to just show you my main site.
What is your website, Heather?
Legalwebsitewarrior.com. So if we're looking here at my site, can you see that, Kay?
Yep.
So under the resources and more, right? Everything, if you want everything I've ever built, it's inside of the Ultimate Legal Toolkit, right? That's all the bundles, all the individual templates. It's organized in a way where the 4 bundles that make up the Ultimate Legal Toolkit are matched to either phases or area of business. So for example, the website protection package is clearly all about protecting your online hub for your business.
Right.
It's not going to cover your, live in-person services. That's slightly different. Here's Diana. So the bundles have a lot of value built into them. There's 4 of them, right? And if I just click right there, welcome to, I've got a couple of people joining, Kathleen and Julie and Diana.
Right.
So
I have the working package. So I have
okay, good. So you've been inside. Okay. So
Yeah.
I think the business evolution package is the one that has the JV agreement. It's got other things for growing your business in similar ways, like affiliate program agreement. Let's see. Yeah, joint venture agreement. So this is the bundle that it lives inside of, but you can also go to my individual template store and find a whole bunch of this broken out in individual templates. Because if somebody doesn't need all the stuff in the bundle, or they're not trending in that direction of needing all those resources, I'm all about meeting people where they're at. So you'd scroll to the bottom down here. I think it's the second or third. Oh, maybe it's higher. Just kidding. I've added a lot of stuff. I keep, new things come up, and every time I do work for a client, I add basically a template version of that document to the site as well. So it's right here, the joint venture agreement and preparation guide. Now, I want to talk just briefly about the preparation guide, because for anybody who does collaborations, anything that looks like a joint venture, and they're trying to figure out, like, what do I cover? What do we talk about in advance of making this thing happen, right? You want to walk through that joint venture preparation guide. And I tell people all the time, like, the value in the bundle, yeah, you get 20 pages of really solid agreement that's going to cover the collaboration, like also the joint venture, as well as the IP that's going to be developed. And, you
good.
know, yeah, and the IP is tricky. A lot of people forget about separately addressing the intellectual property. And so there is, as an addendum to this agreement, there's a very detailed IP agreement as well.
Oh, awesome.
Which
Oh,
basically
yes.
says, which basically says any IP that we both come into the relationship with that's our own remains our own. Anything that we create individually, even in the context of the collaboration, remains our own, right? Anything that is truly jointly created, right? So you're putting two heads together and creating something jointly is shared IP, right? And then you both have rights to it when you complete the joint venture. So it still identifies separate IP as well as joint IP.
Wow,
Awesome.
that's great.
Yeah, so
Is
that can,
is it all types of IP?
yeah, that's right, all types of IP.
Excellent.
Fantastic.
So for example, if you jointly created, let's pretend that you jointly come up with a tagline for the new, you know, project. And it's joint. You jointly create that in a conversation together. One of you cannot run off and individually get a trademark registration around that. It's going to be a joint registration, right? So it spells out the terms of what happens to the IP. And this is one of the big issues that often trip people up in the context of a collaboration like this. They're putting a new course together, a new website in some cases, right? They're really like creating content and building new things related to that joint venture, and they just don't deal with all the issues that they need to deal with. So that's one big piece of it that I want to spell out. And then the other part is the preparation guide is like, I don't know, 3 or 4 pages maybe of questions that you want to walk through on the front end, just in conversation with somebody about like, what if this happens? What if, you know, heaven forbid, one of us gets really sick? Or what if, you know, any number of things can happen that are just part of real life that would really change how you deal with a particular outcome. Like if somebody just got bored with the collaboration and they just kind of opted out, that's very different than if they got sidelined because something traumatic happened in their life, right? You'd probably map a different conclusion to that scenario based on the circumstances. And so that preparation guide for anybody who does collaborations, joint ventures, anything collaborative where you're dealing with contributing funding for the project, you know, costs and expenses that will be ongoing, potential profits, you know, anytime money gets involved, and that's, you know, obviously business is all about money, not all about it, but a huge part of it. You just have to have those conversations, and doing that in advance will set you up so that one, you've got an agreement that's clear because you have covered the right questions in advance, but also it's going to be supportive of the relationship, because when something like that comes up, you will have already had enough conversations around different scenarios that you'll have a clear understanding of how you might like to deal with it. And hopefully, you know, you're collaborative enough that even if you haven't put into the agreement, you know, because I tell people there's no such thing as a bulletproof contract, right? You cannot map a contract in advance to any potential outcome or scenario that could happen. But if you have the right conversation and you're in collaboration with the right people, you're way more likely to be able to make your way through successfully and have an outcome that will work for you both, because you've done the legwork of having the right conversations in advance. So that's all about what the JV preparation guide is for. And I just mentioned that because a lot of people skip that part. They get really excited about like, oh yeah, we're going to do this new thing. And they jump in and then realize like, oh, there's real logistics that we didn't walk through that we're not clear on. And then they start to get hung up on them. Right.
Yeah, we were headed down that path of very excited about everything we were talking about doing and all of this stuff. And all of a sudden I went, we got to back up a bit here.
Yeah, totally. People can create what is called an accidental partnership, where they've already begun to create IP even in advance of, you know, launching the project, doing the thing, and then suddenly they don't have any defined rights around anything. And it's one of the biggest issues that hamstrings startups is they don't do the legwork in advance to have the right documentation in place to make sure that they're covered.
Awesome. Thank you. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I needed.
Good. Well, there you go. Reach out or join me next year on an Ask Me Anything Live if you have any questions once you get it.
I
All
will.
right. Welcome to Diana and Julie and Kathleen and the other Julie, two Julies. Anybody else with questions today that I can support you with?
Real quick, you mentioned a joint trademark.
Yeah.
Does that cost more than a regular trademark?
No, a jointly held trademark just means that you are going to list multiple owners when you put the ownership information into the trademark database.
It's like a piece of real estate.
Basically, yeah. And you want to make sure, here's the other thing with trademarks on this point is you want to make sure, because the value of a trademark and getting that registration is so that if in the event there are infringements of that mark, you can pursue the infringer, right? You've got a stake in the ground around, whatever your registered mark is.
Right.
But it needs to be held in the name of a legal entity, a business entity, right? Generally, you're not going to be able to claim individual damages. Like it has to be actual economic damages to a business for there to be real value there. So make sure that, if you're doing a joint registration, you are registering that mark in the name of both businesses. Yeah, exactly. Or if it's an individual mark, right? In the name of your own individual business.
Right. Perfect. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. Great question, Nolan. Okay, who else? And happy holidays and almost, Julie Hood, hands up. Julie, I just love your use of Zoom. Thank you.
How are you? So good to see you.
So good to see you as well. How are you?
I'm good. And I have a question I bet you can help me with.
Okay.
So I've had a couple times this year where someone has signed up for one of my programs. They have made 1 or 2 payments out of the 6 or more that are due. And I am wondering, I want to change my terms for next year. And are there restrictions about how, like what I can say? Basically, I want to say if they don't make the payments within this, get caught up, they forfeit all the cash that they've given me and we're done. Can I do that?
Yeah, you can. So is this, are they enrolling? Let me just ask, is this like handled through your website protection package currently, where it's like one of your digital enrollments, or is this one of your one-on-one services that
it's digital?
It's
so
digital.
Sign up for a group or a course. Yeah.
Okay, got it. So, one, I'd want to look at, and if it was added like after, because some people are adding stuff over time, like what I'd want to make sure is that, whatever it is that you're selling has been added. And welcome, Bridget Callahan. Haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you. That it's covered there in the offers, in the terms of purchase. And then you should already, and let me just pull up my base version of those terms. It should already say, if you don't make payments consistent, like let's pretend it's either a payment plan or like a monthly membership. If they don't continue making payments, you can yank them out of the services, right? You can cut off access to the services and obviously retain anything that you've kept. So it should already give you the right to do that. But the other thing is, if you want to shoot me over, the current version of your terms, I also, just basically for a small consultation fee, like 15 minutes of my normal hourly rate, can look over that stuff for people and either recommend some updates or see if you've got any current gaps based on what you're offering. So we can do that as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. And what Julie just described, right? People opting in and then not pay, like a lot, like I just want to make a point about this because it can make people feel frustrated or bad about their services. I've seen so much of that, you guys, during COVID, like people just being financially pinched and, the rate of like refund requests, chargebacks, all of that have gone up. And so it really is currently, I mean, and it has been, but even now, just part of doing business, part of being in business, cost of being in business. And so the best that we can do is make sure that we've got really good terms in place, and then just handle those very clearly and promptly. The other point I will make really quick is I've also seen, I had a client, and I love my clients, by the way, but their stories can be really enlightening for others who didn't really want to hold this particular client to the fire. There was quite a bit of money involved, and I think that was part of it. He was incentivized to like try to make it work. But what our clients learn from us, if we allow them to not abide by the payment terms or any other requirements we have for our programs, is that they get to push these boundaries. And so your terms are only as good as you are clear and willing to enforce them, right? And so you should have a system in place where when something like that happens, you immediately jump in and follow your system. Like, hey, I noticed you didn't make this month's payment. Here's what's going to happen. We're going to put your services on pause. You've got, 30 days to correct payment. And then, it'll be considered being concluded or whatever. And we can look at your terms, Julie, to make sure that we map the right path for you. But it's also about enforcing these boundaries and being really clear with our clients about expectations, because in this other scenario, like he kept threatening, like, oh, I'm gonna, cut off services or turn you over to collections or whatever. And it just went on and on and on because she realized he wasn't going to pull the trigger on that. And so I don't like seeing that, because so often, our lessons in business are really about these boundaries. And this is the way that the legal support and the legal documentation that we have can help us in really creating those clear boundaries. And ultimately, it's about streamlining your business so that it's, you have less bumps in the road than would otherwise happen. But thanks for sharing that, Julie. All right. Anybody else? It looks like, I think Julie Woke had her hand up next, and then Bridget, and then Kathleen. Julie, how are you?
I'm doing well. It's nice to see you.
Good to see you.
I've never come to one of these, but I have a legal question, so I'm so excited to ask you it.
Yay.
And I'm glad that you do this. So I have this program. This is a trademark question. I have a program I started about a year and a half ago. I've led it 3 times. It's called Group Magic. I teach people how to create group programs in a particular way. Of course, it's very unique, blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, well, I should think about getting this trademark. And I Google, and there's somebody else who has group program magic already trademarked. And she does, essentially the same thing that I do. I mean, obviously we have our different styles, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, she's got 2 programs. They're called Group Program Magic and like Course Magic or something like that, right? So she doesn't say Group Magic 2 words together. She says Group Program Magic, and it's definitely trademarked. And she trademarked it probably like within months before I started my thing. So even if I started it after she did, like there's no question there.
Yeah.
So my question is, do I even bother going down the path of trying to get a trademark for it because it's similar?
Yeah.
So not the same. Because I don't want to waste a bunch of money trying to get Group Magic trademarked if it's going to be, well, their Group Program Magic is already trademarked. It's too similar. But then I'm like, okay, then do I need to just think of another thing for my program, or could I trademark Group Magic Accelerator, which is the name of my actual program?
Yeah, good question. So what we're talking about today, you guys, and I'm just looking it up really quick, Julie, so that because I just wanted to see what category it's in. So it's 41, educational services, namely providing courses and professional coaching services in the field of curriculum development and distribution of educational materials. Is yours live, Julie, like more of a consulting service, or is it pre-recorded digitized content?
Mine is live. Hers is, at least those programs that are trademarked are courses. They don't appear to have, they're like inexpensive courses. They don't appear to have live support, or maybe they have some Q&A calls or something. But yeah, mine's like a higher fee, more intimate, blah, blah, blah. And that's the model I teach. I do know, I kind of poked around and I see that she has other offerings, but she just talks about them on Facebook, like a more live, intimate, blah, blah, blah. But she hasn't called those Group Magic or Group.
Yeah. Yeah. So it looks like she filed in March of last year, like 2021, right? And then it was published for opposition. Wow, that was a fast turnaround. published for opposition in November. I've not seen any like that during the pandemic. They've gotten longer, not shorter. That's a really short turnaround for the USPTO.
And mine started, I did my first round in fall of 21. So
yeah,
so
probably
I
about the
did
time
my
that
first
she,
one, like right around when she got trademarked. So
yeah,
there's
exactly.
no question, but yeah, so
what the USPTO looks at with any mark is there a likelihood of confusion, right?
Right.
It's really about protecting the marketplace. Is there a likelihood of confusion? I think the answer is yes, between group program magic and group magic. The reason I wanted to look it up and like actually poke around a little bit, like I've got a registration right now that I'm attempting for a client who very similar, is like kind of one word different, although the services that she offers under that mark are quite different, right? But still, the question, because generally what the USPTO looks at is, are you in the same category? Are you running a similar type of business? Are consumers going to be confused about this? And so you're asking the right questions of, what if it was group program or group magic accelerator, right? Can you add a modifier that makes it different enough that you're able to distinguish? The way that you distinguish, that these goods or services are not like the other, right? There is a list of items that you can attempt to distinguish on. So do you have different clientele? Is the level of your clientele sophisticated enough that there's no way that they would be confusing these two offers, right? Is the mark itself distinct enough? And this is where sometimes it can work, but not always. If you can't get a word mark, if you developed a really distinguished logo, you could potentially get a design mark that would at minimum protect, your group magic design, right? So it wouldn't give you exclusive rights over the words themselves, but it would in regards to the particular way that you've designed them. That can be a way to still get a registration. Sometimes it largely depends on the examiner, because an examiner could pull this up and be like, well, still could interfere with this group program magic deal, right? So it's not a guaranteed bet, but these are the ways that you can try to distinguish. And the other thing I would do is try to get you registered over in class 35, which is more typical of like business consulting than I would trying to keep you in class 41, which is really like online education. Now, does it mean that you couldn't evolve that into some digitized content of your courses? No, it just wouldn't be the description that's attached to your category, right? So that's the other way that I can sometimes try to help clients if they're like a little bit too close to an existing mark is there a way to fit them into one of the other categories and still get them the registration? Or if the word mark is taken, can we do a design mark that still gets them some level of protection, that they're able to put the R in a circle afterwards to put other people on alert not to use it, right? So those are the kinds of things that I would be looking at with you.
got it.
Is a word mark more powerful than a design mark?
That's a great question, Nolan. A word mark is typically where I start with my clients, because so often we seek a registration because we want exclusive claim over the mark. Right. Now, in this instance, having exclusive rights to the claim, one, could be unlikely. The other thing that can happen, by the way, is if you have a mark, like the thing that's interesting about this is that group program magic or even group magic, they are still somewhat descriptive. It is not a particularly strong mark. And so the thing for everybody here to keep in mind is that the more unique a phrase is, like the less it describes the thing that you're doing, the more likely you are to actually get a registration, right? So like somebody initially ages ago was like, yeah, we have a program called the 7 Steps to Success, blah, 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 whatever. And I'm like, no, like it's actually describing the thing that it is, 7 steps to reach success in, whatever it is. And it's like, no, that is going to get probably a merely descriptive refusal. You don't want generic or descriptive marks. Think about some of the most powerful marks in the marketplace, Nike, Starbucks, right? Those marks don't describe the thing or the service. They are unique. They stand apart. They're not descriptive of the thing involved. That's how you create a powerful mark. Now, it's a little bit challenging because in the coaching and consulting space, people generally want to come up with a phrase that helps market the thing that they're doing, right? Because people can relate to it. But you do have to get creative around, is there a way to achieve what it is that you're trying to describe, but with a different set of words that may be synonymous, but not descriptive? If that makes sense, right? So almost metaphorical, or some other way to definitely have the same impact that you're going for without just merely describing the thing that you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So a lot
So
to think about. Yeah. And
yeah.
sometimes I will tell you that I have clients regularly that are like, yeah, it's descriptive. I still want to try for it. And I have been surprised that the USPTO does on occasion allow descriptive marks to go through. What happens with them is they don't get placed on the principal register. They end up on the supplemental register. And that just means you still are able to put the R in a circle once you get the registration. You have some claim to that mark. You do not have exclusive control over it in the marketplace. Right. So some people are like, well, that trade-off is fine. I still want to be able to put a registered mark behind a registered, symbol behind my mark. I'm okay with that.
And is that what that woman did? Or is she on the right, or can you not tell?
Well, she's on the principal. Yeah. So that's the other thing, is like you get a ton of inconsistency in the USPTO itself, which is phenomenal to me, because I feel like it's pretty clear when you look at a mark, like whether it's descriptive or not and where it belongs. And yet sometimes I get really surprised, like some of the things that end up on the principal register.
Thank you. Do you think it's worth trying, or is it like there's like too many counts against it, I should come up with something else? And then like how much money, like, because if we're trying all these different angles, then it's going to be like this big investment too.
Well, so it depends. So where I typically start in my office when somebody's at this phase of like, okay, do we pursue this? Do we pursue that? Do we come up with a slightly modified version of this? We do what's called a knockout search, right? Where we would spend, I just did a basic search, but we'd spend a bit more time searching the USPTO to make sure that there are not other registrations that, would additionally interfere. And then we also would spend some time searching, like running some particular searches on the internet to see what else is out there. It's really about getting the lay of the land so that we can position your mark as powerfully as possible. And then, like I mentioned, it's about looking, are there other ways to describe that particular thing? Can we fit you into a different category? Can we come up with a description? So for example, one of the marks that I'm pursuing right now for a client, there's 2 other marks out there that use similar words. One is a Canadian-based company that does a very particular thing online, completely different from my client. And the other one is a US-based company, but again, pretty different from what my client does, even though you could generally describe them in the same category. And so what we've done is, one, try to fit her into a different category, but also have a very narrow description of her services so that it's obvious how distinct she is from the others in the marketplace. So there can be a certain amount of benefit from just preparing it the right way, whereas a lot of people and a lot of attorneys would go for the most general description possible to try to allow for any number of uses under that mark. My goal is to get the registration, right? And if over time your mark evolves or you add additional services, you can always add on registrations for additional categories later. But the thing that I'm most concerned about for many of my clients is getting their foot in the door if there's competition in that space for that type of mark, to make sure that we craft it in a way that sets them up for the greatest likelihood of success. So there can be things like that you can do to approach it. And the knockout search process through my office, I charge $300 for. If we determine, look, we really don't think that you should pursue this particular mark, we will do another knockout search for an alternative under the same fee, just to see if we can get you a step closer. So,
Okay.
yeah, so you kind of have like 2 bites of the apple, and then, you know, from there we make a follow-up assessment about what might be the best path for you.
Got it. Oh, that's reasonable. I just don't want to like pay for like the whole process and then have,
Mm-mm,
oh,
mm-mm.
sorry, you just invested a couple grand and nothing.
No, so the knockout search process really helps with this that we're talking about. And then the other thing that I do is that fee is included in my flat fee pricing for a registration. So if we get you through the knockout search phase and you're like, you know what, I feel good about this, let's move forward with this particular mark. You've already paid $300 of the $14.97 flat
Got
fee.
it.
It just gets applied to the work that we do towards the remaining registration.
Got it. Oh, that makes it easy. Oh, you're awesome.
Yeah, I
I'm
try to
gonna do
make it
that.
very accessible and like, you know, connect the dots for people so they understand the process.
Great. Cool. Well, I'll email
Yeah.
you because I would like to do that first part and just see like
See
if
what you
it's
can
even
come up
a
with.
good
Yeah.
idea.
Okay, perfect. Well, good. Good to see you, Julie. Great
I
question.
will. Thank you. I'll hop off soon because I
No
have
worries.
other stuff. Thank you so much.
Yes, happy holidays.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, Bridget, how are you? And then Kathleen.
Hi, Heather. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
I have you in my calendar every week and I never come, but I came today.
I understand. Well, we'll take you whenever we get you. So good to have you here.
So last minute, Lucy over here, I have my first live event tomorrow. It's a 1-day event and I'm making an offer. And I'm wondering what legal documents I might need to, or what legal verbiage I need to say on the invoice or whatever, so that, you know, it's not that I don't want to refund their money. I just want it like it's non-refundable but transferable or something like that. And I'm the
So,
first person to refund someone's money if they're unhappy. I have no
yeah,
problem with that. I just don't want to advertise it. You know,
right.
what's your thoughts on that?
What is the offer that you're making?
The amount?
The service. What is the
Oh,
offer
it's
itself?
done for you, slide and graphic design.
Okay, and what is the value?
The value is like $16,000 and the cost that I'm charging them is $5,000.
Okay. So with that amount, I mean, my question would be, because it's less about even just having like a refund policy thing. When you've got thousands of dollars trading hands, I'd want to see a comprehensive client service agreement in place for that service, right? And people would probably expect it at that fee level. Now, if it was a couple $100 or even less than 1,000, probably, you know, something minimal would get you by, even though it's not ideal. But at the $5,000 level, I'd expect to see more than just the refund policy terms, right? So I'd expect to see how is the, you know, the services structured? What's the timeline? You know, what are the client obligations? Meaning that obviously you can't work with a client who doesn't get you the assets or the content to review or work from, right? And like mapping out that process, because what you really want are clients that have very clear expectations about how things are going to go. And that's how you reduce refunds and chargebacks, is through the clarity.
Okay.
Right. So, yeah. So in thinking about that, it's a custom, right, one-on-one service. It's not like you're leading people through a group program and showing them how to
There's
do
a group component to it, but a lot of it is, you know,
it.
client intake. What is it that you need? Let us do it. Let's review it and let us make revisions and let's review the final. And then there might be, well, there will be a debrief call once they use the slides the first time and speak to find out how it went and if there's any last minute changes they need. So there's, you know, the client interaction, but then there's, you know, we take the work and do it behind the curtain, so to speak.
Totally.
And so I do have a contract that I use with clients, you know, like corporations and stuff, and I've used it for years. Haven't had a problem with that. I had one client that I was using Stripe at the time, and for some reason they weren't happy with my services, and they just reached out to Stripe and says, I want my money back. She didn't deliver, and I had proof that I delivered, and Stripe didn't accept it. So they told me tomorrow we're going to take $3,500 out of your bank account. And I called my bank that day and says, don't let them do that. So now I'm on strike jail.
Well, and that's a good example of why the term, either very clear terms of purchase or client services agreements upfront matter, because then you also can show the payment processor, the credit card company, like, here's exactly what we agreed to. Here's the structure of how it was going to be delivered. Here's the timing of it all. Here's the records of the calls that the client showed up to, right? It's very different than just like a he said, she said, like, she didn't deliver. Yes, I did. Right. There's a lot more detail and structure to it than that. And so, that's one of the best ways to protect against the refund and chargeback process is through really clear contracts. But it means you have to have those disclosures made in advance of them signing up for the service. So I assume this is an online event where people are going to be, like in a Zoom room or something. The other thing to be aware of is that there is an FTC 3-day cooling off period.
I understand that.
Right. So anybody that's making offers from the stage, even now included in the online space, I would say you still need to follow those rules. The thing that can happen, and the reason that they made that rule, is that, you show up to an event, and like so many of us know can happen, people get caught up and like, yes, I need the thing, and they buy, and then later, like within, a very short period of time, they're like, gosh, what did I do? And the FTC recognizes like the pressure that can be applied to people in kind of high pressure sales tactics. And I'm not saying you do this, Bridget. I'm just saying the reason for the 3-day cooling off period is to give people 3 days to think about their purchase and whether or not they actually need the thing. And if they don't, you need to be able to let them out of that agreement within 3 days. And you have to have those disclosures made in any sales forms and offer forms made from the stage. And so with the way business is evolving to the online space, and now, our online websites are places of public accommodation. So under the ADA, we have obligations that we did not used to have. It's just, I would be very cautious around not also including that 3-day, language for refunds, which again, you'd have to consider in your refund policy around like, oh, absolutely no refunds. You may not be able to do that. Right.
Yeah,
but you'd want
to
have those terms somewhere in the larger body of the agreement so that the disclosure is made, but they're really focused on the other stuff. What am I getting? What's the process for the company to support me? One thing I'd want to see for you, Bridget, as a creative and somebody who actually has to do the hands-on work, is because anybody in the creative space, if you've designed websites or done any kind of design work or copywriting or anything that is creation of something for another business, right? You have to really manage scope creep. And so whether you do that through, iterations, and I've got an article I can grab for you real quick. I think it's like 7 tips for limiting scope creep. I'd want to see that kind of stuff in the agreement as well, because you want to make sure that, somebody doesn't come to you thinking like, oh, I get unlimited rounds of revisions, or I get to make any number of requests, and you're going to respond to them and update it. So check out that article, because you build some of that into your terms or your document as well, if you're having to create something on the fly today. But scope creep is a huge issue for people that are doing creative services, and particularly where there's, revisions involved, and you're kind of taking content that originated somewhere else and modifying it or improving it, and anytime you're working with other humans, they may not be happy and might just keep pushing you for more and more work. And so I just am very conscientious of that for my clients, and making sure that you cover those types of issues as well in your agreement.
Okay. And I do have a contract that does limit, like, revisions and stuff like that. And also, as soon as the invoice is paid in full, ownership rights will be passed to you. So I own all the copyright and everything until the invoice is paid in full. I state that. But do I need them to sign like a digital document, or can they just make a deposit and then we hop on the phone to see if they're a fit? And if they're not, I just refund them.
I mean, you can do that as well. You have less protection that way if they ultimately become your client, because you have
No,
not
I'd get them to sign. Once, if they give me a deposit and then we have a conversation and we're going forward, then they would sign the agreement.
Still, they could go to a court and say, I didn't know what I was signing up for because I didn't have all the terms before I made the down payment.
Oh, gotcha.
So it's
Okay.
a bait and switch type scenario where court
Oh,
would
okay.
go, oh, well, maybe we don't enforce this because they really did not know what they were signing up for. So
Okay.
this is why full disclosure of the terms before they sign and before any money trades hands is essential if you really care about protecting not only the income stream related to that particular offer or service, but also the client relationship. You want people coming in with eyes wide open.
So how quickly can I get one of these documents?
From me, not today. Not for tomorrow. I wish. I've got a
Yeah.
whole host of client projects that I'm wrapping up this week. So this is the kind of thing you just got to plan for.
Is there a boilerplate, something I can use, or do I just
For the hybrid approach, I can't remember. Do you have my website protection package? Have you gotten anything in the past?
I did. I bought a package and I was just looking at it.
Because the terms of purchase in my website protection package are going to have some of the built-in protections, but they're not going to have the description of services, right? So that's
yeah, I
where
can put that in there.
you'd have to get in and modify the description of services to make sure that this particular offer is covered. But even then, it's a little bit of a hybrid, right? Because you're doing partly an online enrollment experience. Right now, do you have your terms of purchase activated where people check the box before they buy the thing, like a digital course or whatever? Like, do you have them actually working and on your site? No.
No.
So part of the difficulty around doing that very last minute is usually it's a process. You've got to have like iTunes check the box style. I have read and agreed to these terms of purchase again before they complete the digital enrollment. And maybe you've got the capability to do that. For some folks, it can take a little bit to figure that out and make sure the parts are all working, right? And uploading the documents the right way, etc. For others, if it's more of a custom kind of a hands-on service, and for $5,000, honestly, I'd want to see that more in a custom document that is uploaded through DocuSign and where they actually are required to review it, maybe initial key provisions, and then apply a signature. That's the best way to handle.
All right. So I have that. I mean, I have DocuSign. I have all that. I work with my clients on that. And I can do that with this. One thing I purchased is that the WPP workshop. Is that the website protection?
The website protection package. Yeah. In workshop.
So I have that. I just don't know where the heck I can find it. What is it called, or where is it online? Because I can't find the login if it's online.
Yeah, so we'd probably outside of this call, I want to make sure that we get to any other questions within the top of the hour. I'm going to go look for you inside of the Facebook group that was for that group, because I did that in 2020, the first year of COVID, trying to get people online and covered.
Yeah, it was June 2020 when I got it.
Yeah, it was just like a few months into COVID, and I was like, ooh, we got this tidal wave coming and everybody needs to be online. So Facebook's not letting me log in right now. Let me go tag you, because what I'll do is I'll tag you inside of the Facebook group. Anybody on this call, but anybody in small business separately, you should have a digital location where all your legal files go. Like, this is not an issue that you want to have moving forward where you can't find stuff. And I'm not making light of it, Bridget. This happens to a lot of people, but the way around this is to create a system where, just like you've got, your own template files or product files or wherever you keep, whether you use Dropbox or Google Drive, you set up a legal file. And if you've got a business entity, your formation documents go in there. If you have a registered agent, right, their information goes in there. You keep everything related to the ongoing maintenance from a legal and compliance perspective in that file for your business. And that way, it's updated. Anytime you get a new notice or a new anything, boom, it drops into that file. But what I will do, Bridget, is I will tag you inside of that Facebook group because it's still somewhere on Facebook. I just got to go find it. And
Okay.
then you'll see, I think there are links inside of there. And if not, I'll just message you the links.
Okay.
You can re-download stuff.
Awesome. Thank you, Heather.
Okay.
It's good to
Yeah,
see
you're
you.
welcome. Good to see you too. Good luck tomorrow. I hope that goes
Thank
well
you.
for you.
I'm good. It's gonna be awesome.
Super fun. Good luck. All right. Kathleen, how are you?
I am doing fine, and my computer reminded me about you. So,
Mm. Oh yeah, my Ask Me Anything Live reminders.
mm-hmm.
Totally.
Well, I use Google Calendar, so you're on my calendar.
Oh, got it. So it bings you. Yep. Do you have a question for today, Kathleen?
Well, my thing is, I told you a little bit in the private comment, and I don't want to get in that too much, but I do want to say we are trying to update our online presence because everything was kind of shut down during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And my thing, I hadn't really thought about it a whole lot, but that's kind of why I was trying to get a hold of you, because I was thinking maybe you'd like to check us out and, be able to help us out a little bit, just because we're connected with Seattle Housing Authorities, so we have their legal department, but I don't think that's the same as what we need for our site, specifically our stuff, because
Mm-hmm.
we're not Seattle Housing, you know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah, no, I get it.
They're a different kind of business than what we are.
Yeah. Well, I'll take a look at your message, and if there's something that I think I can do, I'll follow up.
Okay, and
Okay.
you have my email, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. I do have your
And
email.
but also I think I sent you my actual phone number in one of my emails.
Okay, no
Because
worries.
since we're both in Seattle.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And actually, that's a big deal. Here's what happened. We had a contract issue. We had a company, we had an agency that was subcontracted to actually run the lab from, and their contract ran out right before, at the end of 19, right?
So really quick, Kathleen,
And
I want to be respectful because we have a couple of other hands up. I don't typically, just so you know, I don't typically work with businesses that have a brick and mortar presence. That's not not where I focus or specialize. So you'd want somebody who understands local regulatory stuff. They're dealing with people that have brick and mortar presence for their business. So that's who you'd be looking for.
Okay, I just wanted to mention the issue we have is that we don't have a phone number right now because it got in La La Land between the changeover between the sub-agency and Seattle Housing, and they didn't keep it updated, so there was bills weren't paid, and it got out.
Well, I know how to reach you, so
yeah,
I know where to find you.
We don't really want to get a new phone number. Yeah, and that's it.
Okay.
But it's those kind of things that are a kind of irritation.
I get it.
Anyway.
Okay. Well, good to see you, Kathleen. It looks like Bridget has another question, and Nolan also has his hand up.
Yeah. So I want to create a revocable trust. And my question is, I own real estate. I have 2 main businesses and a couple of DBAs. Can I put all of those in the trust?
That's a great question. So just so people on this call are clear, I don't do estate planning, right? So people usually, the revocable trust and the trust issues come up when people are talking either about asset protection or estate planning, right? So, I think you're based in California. Probably you've got an interest in avoiding probate around certain things because that can really be a hassle in certain states. I don't have any firsthand knowledge about what going through probate is like in California if you pass away and you've got assets, right, that need to be handled in a certain way. But the estate planning and asset protection do overlap a bit. And so this is where having some knowledge around strategies can be helpful. The thing about a revocable trust is it will help you with estate planning. It's not going to be particularly helpful from an asset protection standpoint. Assets that are held inside of a revocable trust are available to creditors. And the reason being is because you can revoke the permissions given to the trustee at any time.
Right.
It's revocable. So it's still
Right.
in your power and in your control. And basically the only way that you can protect your assets is to have them beyond arm's length from you, right? So irrevocable trusts become the mechanism for asset protection if you're truly interested in that route. And
Right.
those can be good and also somewhat inconvenient, because once you set them up, they're subject to certain rules that can be a little bit challenging to change if you want somebody to handle the trust a different way, right? It's an irrevocable trust, which means you
Right.
cannot revoke the
You
rules or the purpose
can't
that you
change it.
set it up for. Yeah.
Yeah.
So typically the irrevocable trusts are going to be set up, for folks that really have assets to protect. They've got, certain mechanisms in place. Certain states like Wyoming has a favorable, essentially irrevocable trust that you can set up that still provides some leeway for certain things. So there can be, because estate planning is state by state, right?
Right.
And then some people, they might even go so far as setting up a foreign irrevocable trust, right? A foreign asset protection trust. And so you've got domestic level trusts that can be beneficial for certain things. They can certainly make it harder for people to get to your assets, but they're not ultimately like as protective as people want them to be, because in
Right.
certain states don't recognize trusts in other states and vice versa. So you can have some real issues with trust law from state to state. But the thing that you can do is contain from an asset protection standpoint, right? Particularly around business assets. But I think you could probably do it, for certain personal assets as well. Like I know some folks who put their home, their personal residence inside of an LLC, right? So I'm just going through options because you will definitely want to check with state specific counsel. Excuse me, my voice is getting a little
I know the feeling.
a little dry, but the other thing that can be done that is where these strategies can overlap, Nolan, is you can set up a legal entity, right, for your business. So for example, I heard you say you've got two businesses, right? You've got DBAs. The DBAs themselves are not going to be an asset if you have a registered mark around those DBAs, because that's going to be for a business or brand name. Right. That becomes an asset that you could move over into the company or register in the name of the company. And then once you've got your entities set up, and maybe they already are, the thing that you can do, because trusts are able to hold personal assets, personal property, right? And an individual membership in an LLC, for example, or inside of a company is a personal asset. So you can actually make your trust a member of the LLC or the company. And it can sometimes be the sole member. If it's a partnership, you can have two members, right? So there are ways to overlap those strategies where your trust then becomes the holder of your personal interest inside of that legal entity. But again, you'd want to be working with somebody that knows what they're doing when they set that up for you, because you still have the issue of needing to make sure that assets actually get moved over into the correct entity.
Right. You mentioned a state-specific counsel. What is that?
State specific. So you're in California, you would want California estate planning and asset protection attorney. Right. And I'm happy to reach out and ping my network if you're looking for a referral on that. But just meaning like, you wouldn't be consulting with an Ohio estate planning attorney because you're California based. Yeah. So you just want state specific counsel, because estate planning law is going to have some state specific issues that need to be addressed.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Very good. And just the only other question I had was, can we refer people to your group here?
Totally. Yeah.
Okay.
Let me share a link with you that will
Okay.
let them basically go sign up, and they'll be on my list and they'll hear from me. If they stay on my list, they will hear from me on a monthly basis. Let me
Okay,
just,
great.
yep.
I have a number of friends that are part of, well, my associates and friends that are part of our group that
Oh, nice. Yeah.
really
So,
could really benefit from this.
well, I appreciate that. And again, the caveat is if they unsubscribe, they're not going to hear from me, right? So there's the link. It's the link to my Ask Me Anything Live page, right? But that will
Okay.
continue on a monthly basis next year as well. So
All
you're
right.
welcome. You're welcome to share that. They'll get my other stuff as well. Like they'll hear about my
Sure.
podcast, and they'll,
Right.
my weekly briefs when I send them and that kind of thing. So
Awesome.
all righty.
Very good.
Well, good to
Thanks.
see you again. Happy
Yeah, you
holidays,
too.
Nolan. I hope you have a great rest of your month. Bridget,
I
oh,
just became a new grandpa 6 months ago. So it's been fun.
congrats. That's so
Yeah.
exciting. What a really exciting and joyful time of life.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Good. Is your grandkid close? Do you get to see them?
Yeah, they're actually just in the other room.
Oh, super
I
close.
was
Maybe a
I
little
was
too close.
he was a little vocal earlier. I was gonna say if you hear a baby in the background, that's what it is. But
Oh,
he
so cute. We
he
got all the
quite
patience for babies.
yeah, it takes a lot.
Mhm. Yeah, it does. Well, good
But
for you.
thanks so much
Congratulations.
for what you do. This is great, and hope
You're
your business keeps thriving.
you're welcome. Thank you, Nolan. I sure appreciate it. All right, Bridget, you good? I know your hand was up, but maybe that was from the first round. Okay. All right. Well, you guys all have a great holiday and take good care. Enjoy some time off. Reach out if you need anything else. Bridget, I'll ping you. I'll go find you in that group and ping you there, and then we can
Okay.
go from there.
Thank you, Heather.
You're
Thanks.
welcome.
See you.
You have
Okay.
a great
Bye, Nolan.
Bye, Nolan.
Thanks.
Yeah, you
Bye-bye.
too. Bye-bye.